I've always wanted to know who I am, and I know I'm not the only person in the world who's always wanted to know who they are. I grew up in the projects in Chicago and during the 60s, and it was a very tumultuous time in our country. And for African American girls, we didn't have little dolls even that looked like who we were. So, we would wake up, and the dolls we would play with were all these little white dolls. And it's like, well, that's that, but where do we connect? Where does that intersect? And who I am, so I grew up thinking I was Julie Andrews, and I'd walk around the house. What will this day be like? I wonder, just this, and growing up in the projects, that's not too cool to walk around like, Julie Andrews. That's not cool, you want to have some kind of swagger to you,
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up creating a pseudo identity of who I was, so at home my mother made us speak with the Queen's English, there was no splitting of verbs, there was none of that. But in order for me to survive, in order to get to school, between home and school, is son, hey, like, whatever you have to do, you do to do, what you need to do to get by. So, I was this whole other person, and it really kind of got in the way of who I was, because I wasn't allowed to be who I was at home, who I am, between school and home. And when I got to school, because I genuinely love learning, I was back to what I was at home. So that really confused the kids, because I was one way walking to school with them, and then when I got into the classroom, I was what I was at home. And so I got beat up a lot, and because I knew the answers, because we studied at home, or, I knew how, I could always read very well. I read at an early age. We all did in our home. So it was interesting. And so the idea of looking for who I am and how the world defines us has always been of interest to me. So that's why I wanted to take this journey.
So much of my early life was a blank to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I don't believe I knew who I was. I remember the day my father left, and I was very young. I was 5.
Mm-hmm.
I stood at the top of the stairs and watched him walk. I remember building a memory for Jordan once. It had snowed one year, and we had a toboggan that I got from L.O. Bean, and it was like a big, long family toboggan. So we went over to a place over here that we call Floods Hill, and we tobogganed all day long. And at the end of the day, we got the toboggan and we put it in the car, and we strapped. She was very young, but she's always been very articulate, since she was really little. We strapped her in the car, and as Daddy Jono put the car into gear and pulled away from the curb, we heard this wee voice from the back say, "I'll remember this day always." And so when we,
Mm-hmm.
share ourselves with our children or friends or colleagues or neighbors, that kind of connection builds memories. It's yummy here in her soul. She's an artist, and so I love that her soul is so pure.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell her too. God love you too, darling. Good night. It's a challenge for an artist to remain open when the world is constantly beating up on you.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you hold on to that joy and that spirit without it being destroyed? How do you protect that and at the same time not cover yourself to the point where you can't feel the world and allow that to come out? Because we need that as an artist. You have to experience life so that you can share it. And I always talk to her about preserving that. You can't give that part of your soul away to the industry. It's because that's when you become a hoe. You know what I mean? This piece right here, Journey Release. At the end of the play is really the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Because now
that there's this release of herself into having finally found herself, then she can begin. I don't think that we come into full realization of that we are on a journey until something drastic or dramatic or tragic happens to us. And then all of a sudden we're kind of shaken to the point where we go, oh my God, I nearly lost my life. I wish we could become awakened with joy. But for some reason, when there's a joyous moment, we take it for granted almost.
Because you're not thinking about it, you're just happy being happy.
Right.
And that's why you have to be thankful, you know? Like to take time to be thankful.
And to a smile